Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
Hi, this is Ed Cohen, your broadcast host today on Global TV Talk Show, a unit of globalbusinessnews.net. GBN, as we call it, globalbusinessnews.net, has been active since '03. Google Analytics has measured over 1.2 million audience page views on the site, including this year, from January 1 through December 10, little over 75,000 from over 100 countries, including about 70% US, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Panama, and about 20% Europe, around 9% or so Asia Pacific, and about 1% Middle East Africa. Our very special guest today is Sahar Andradi. Now, please tell me if I mispronounced that.
Actually, it's correct. It's Sahar Andradi. Yes.
Andradi. Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm really honored to have you as our special guest today for a brief dialogue about what's the meaning of unconscious bias and what's the real backstory behind all this talk about DE and I, because there's a lot of confusion. That doesn't mean
There is
people with my last name, or people with your last name, women, people of color. I mean, what does all this mean? So please tell us about your degrees and your scientific approach to this.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Ed, for having me today. It's really a pleasure to meet you virtually and to be here on your show.
Thank you.
My name is Sahar Andradi. I am a diversity, equity, inclusion, and leadership trainer and speaker. I have, like you said, I have a medical degree from Egypt. I graduated as a medical doctor with major in psychiatry. So most of my approach in whatever I do relies on some kind of scientific background or on neuroscience and how the brain works in a very simplified way. So I won't bore people, with the medical terminology and all. But for me, I guess my medical background taught me that if we don't know the root of the problem, we will never find a real solution. If we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, we're only going to treat symptoms that will always keep coming back, sometimes worse than how it originated. So I always go to the root, and I approach DEI, as we call it, diversity, equity, and inclusion, from more of a sensitivity point of view as who we are as human beings, rather than from a compliance. I have done also a mastery certification program about human resources. So I would have a more global knowledge of the laws that have discrimination, like Title VII, ADA, ADEA, but I work more from a sensitivity point of view. How I came to do what I do today is that I personally grew up in 7 different countries.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. It wasn't fun then, but now I realized that it actually made me who I am.
Now, is that because your family was in medicine and they traveled?
No. I'm a diplomatic brat. So every 4 years we were in a different country, and so for me, dealing with people from different cultures, different backgrounds, became a second nature to me.
Right.
So when I launched my own business, I realized that this is where my strength is, and it's not only that, this is where my heart is. This is where I want to leave a world behind that is more accepting and embracing differences, that sees beauty in differences, than see the differences as something bad or weird that we have to be penalized for.
So what are the solutions for the general population in a business surrounding? Because people don't realize, well, they know that they have some bias because they don't have information. They don't have any personal relations.
Yes.
So what are some of the solutions from a practical point of view? How can people overcome or begin to overcome?
So to think about the solutions, we first need to know where the problem is or where the problem originates. So the first thing is to go through like really quick definitions. Like people have this idea about diversity, that it's about the difference of color, religion, ethnicity, races, and all that, but it's not that. Diversity is about our unique characters as human beings that makes us unique. So yes, it has the race, it has the ethnicity, but it has also the gender. And we need to remember that gender is fluid. Gender is not binary. Gender is a full spectrum. It's talk about ages. Right now, in life, we have 6 generations, but at the workplace, we have 5. We have the veterans or the silence generations. We have the baby boomers, we have the Xers, we have the millennials, and we have the Z. And now we have the alpha. The alpha are the 5 years and younger, right? We finished the alphabet and now we're going from the beginning. And we
that's sort of like the hurricanes, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And then we have the abilities and disabilities of people. And then we have the sexual orientation. We have parental status, military status, veteran status, even the jobs, white collar, blue collar, pink collar, education, socioeconomic, geographical, where we are, East Coast, different than West Coast, West. All these are diverse. Even the diversity of thoughts has to do with it. And then we come to equity. And equity has been added to the menu only the last 3-4 years, though it should have been there forever. And equity is different than equality. And people mix between them.
Okay, what's the difference?
I'm glad you asked. So equality is when we divide the resources equally on everyone. But equity is when we realize that there are certain groups that historically have been discriminated against, like people of color, like women, people with disabilities, that they have not been given the chances or the opportunities to shine. So they are not on that starting line. So even if we give equal amount of resources, they're not going to get to their full potential. So equity is when sometimes we are offering resources in uneven way to bring everybody to the starting line, and then we apply equality. Then equality will make sense.
Wow.
And then inclusion is how we constructively call for our differences so we can all reach our full potential. And we need to remember that our differences is our beauty, and being different is not being weird, is not being bad, is just being different.
Yeah, so culture. I mean, it's all about how we grew up, and we don't know. We were told things and we were set in motion under an umbrella or a bubble. And it's really hard to change anything like that because it's it's threatening because it's different.
Absolutely, because and you mentioned earlier unconscious bias, and one of the things that usually when I do like workshops or I talk about it, people prevent the fact to talk about unconscious bias because in their mind, if I have unconscious bias, that means I'm racist. But it has nothing to do with that. First of all, we all have unconscious bias because this is how our brain works. It's what we do with it that really matters. And that's why it's unconscious. Unconscious meaning, and our unconscious bias are basically our blind spots.
Yeah, it's like all I know. I mean, I don't know what to do.
And where do we get the blind spots?
I don't want to blame my parents, but
it is. And they can blame their parents. But blind spots might not be our mistake, but they are our responsibility. It's like driving a car. If we get into an accident because of a blind spot in the mirror, it might not be our mistake, but it's our responsibility.
Yeah. Okay. So, in other words, we have to get burned to really understand that there's got to be a change.
Absolutely. And if we understand why we have unconscious bias, first of all our actions, our values, or most of our attitudes and values, they come from a download of our parents and the environment that we had before we were even 7 years old. Because before 7 years old, we have something called the theta waves, where we are a sponge and we just like take everything.
Yeah, right.
Right. And the triggers for them are the same triggers that trigger us. And that's why we both can look at one thing and look at it in different ways, because our perceptions are different.
So assumptions, right?
And perceptions are, and we, perceptions are realities for us, but we forget that perceptions for you is different than one it is for me.
Fascinating, huh? Wow.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and if we start from a point of understanding and acceptance here, I get sometimes a pushback about acceptance, because diversity and inclusion is not about tolerance. It's not tolerance. Tolerance is,
that's passive.
thank you. And tolerance is is basically putting up with someone, right? I don't want to be put up with. I want to be accepted.
Know. Forget about me if I'm just going to do that.
Yeah.
Don't involve me.
Right?
Right.
So acceptance here means that I accept that you have different beliefs, you have different attitudes, you have different ideas, you have different thoughts, and I'm okay with it. That's what acceptance means.
So remember that book from, I forget the author's name, but I'm okay, you're okay?
Yes.
Yeah, it's almost like that, right?
Exactly. And it's not, we are not a melting pot. And I know that a lot of people, when they talk about diversity and inclusion, talk about being a melting pot. We are not a melting pot. Right. A melting pot is like we all fuse together and become the same exact thing. And that's not what diversity is. No,
it's a smorgasbord where you do a little of that and then like the old breakfast buffet before.
Or like a beautiful salad.
That's it. Yeah.
Different flavors that enhance each other rather than overcome each other. And then it's not about assimilation. It's about integration.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And these are basic things that we need to start when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's not because the old thoughts are about we're a melting pot, we need to assimilate, we need to tolerate each other. And I think these thoughts are actually hurting the state of DEI than helping it.
So I've just, while you were talking about all this and further going deeper on the meaningfulness of it, and you were talking about salad. So I don't know why my brain is this way. Maybe I'm hungry, but I thought of Chobani yogurt, which is white, right? And then you mix in raspberry,
blueberries,
fruit, a little bit of I forget the crunchy stuff, and all of a sudden it's a little bit of everything, and it tastes great.
It's enhancement, exactly.
Whereas before, if you're just dealing with the white guy, I mean, just the white stuff, it's kind of bland.
and also, you know what, Ed, we also need to remember that being white is part of the diversity.
It is a piece.
Exclude the white because it's like a different conversation, but being white, it's part of the diversity that we live in.
Yeah, it says one more piece.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know what I'm thinking of now, I don't know, just association value on a sunny day in San Diego here is that it's like a Rubik's Cube. Remember that thing that you turn and, I could never get it to work, but others could. And all the different colors of the pieces, all this stuff is that's diversity, right?
Yes.
And then somehow some people can get it to work and it's perfect, but most people can't do it. Is that somewhat of an offbeat analogous?
No, it's actually, if you take the same analogy of that, it works. The thing is, like, it works. Yes, it's difficult to do it. And our path to equality, and equity, and our path to inclusion is not easy. Yeah. But we need to start somewhere. And in diversity and inclusion, we're gonna have to go through discussions that are not comfortable, and it's gonna get messy before it gets okay. But we need to start somewhere.
So how I was going to ask for a specific tip, but I might be jumping the gun here on how do you inject a positive into this mix?
I'm a person that always believes in rainbows, and I always believe that I was just going to say, out of every mess, there is a message. Out of every breakdown, there is a breakthrough. And that's what I really believe in. Everything happens for a reason. Maybe all the things that happen, and unfortunately we lost people because of it, but maybe because of that, it was maybe a rude awakening for people to start really talking about it, for people to feel more empowered to have a voice for equity and equality. And this is what I have been doing for years. I mean, wherever I go, I try to leave an impact for someone to start thinking a little bit different, to start including people in, to be self-aware, because you asked about solution earlier, and the first key to take us in a better place or to a better place is self-awareness.
Isn't that interesting?
It starts with us.
And now a word from our co-sponsors. Our programs wouldn't happen without the wonderful support of our advertisers. Here they are.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic, because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them, because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
Cube Monk, featuring the world's first smart cube. Track your goods with our advanced GPS system. Welcome to the future of moving and relocation at cubemonk.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by heirs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at heirs.com.
Insured Nomads provides protection and peace of mind, with health insurance, travel insurance, group, or tailored insurance for the globally mobile. Visit us at insurednomads.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Hi, my name is Christine. I'm a nurse from the Philippines, and I got to know IAS through Worldwide Health Staff Solutions. And I want to thank IAS, especially to Matthew, for helping me get my car stress-free, headache-free. And so I just want to show you the car that I got. So it's a RAV4 XLE 2020.
As an expat moving to the USA, relocating is exciting, but it can also be stressful. Getting a car, truck, or SUV for personal transportation is usually a high priority. That's where International Auto Source comes in. We make getting the vehicle you want for your work assignment or academic program easy, so you're ready to drive when you arrive. Our product specialists have helped over 50,000 expatriates with their personal transportation needs, making us the largest international auto retailer in the world. International Auto Source gives you flexible payment options to buy, lease, or rent a vehicle from the world's leading auto brands, arrange financing on a purchase or lease without a U.S. credit history, social security number, or driving record, get full insurance coverage, and get approved easily through our low-rate factory-backed financing programs. And because we're an authorized distributor of the world's leading automotive brands, our no-haggle prices are competitive, and the buying experience is hassle-free. We'll even guarantee your new vehicle will be ready the day you arrive. With over 20 years of experience in the global community, we are the vehicle experts for expats. We are International Auto Source.
Okay, we're back with Sahar Andradi, and she's, I don't mean to embarrass you, but a genius in this regard.
Oh, thank
But
you.
no, the understanding and the simplicity of your explanation of something really difficult is turning me on so that I can understand more. And so there's a quote here from your site. People feel secure with people that look, feel, and speak like them. Well, here never mind outside the borders of America, but right within, say, LA metro, you've got a lot of countries represented right here in Southern California.
Let's talk about that for a second, and I'll take you to a scientific meaning of it, so it will make sense.
Thank you.
So in conscious bias is actually a lot of types of biases that we have. It's not only one, but we have many biases, right? One of them is what we call affinity bias, or in-groups and out-groups bias. So the in-group bias is when we look at someone that either looks like us or think like us, or grew up on the same street, or comes from the same background, or speaks the same language, or goes to the same religious institution, or that we have something in common. And all of a sudden we feel like conversation goes easy, whatever they say is brilliant, and all of a sudden we feel that connection. But when people are different, it becomes us and them, or let me be careful, or I don't trust them. Why? Because the brain function, the primary function of the brain is two things: protection and efficiency. Protection against any danger, either real or perceived. Our brain never changed since the caveman. So we are still living in that survival mode, kill or be killed. So anything that looks different, that we perceive as different, it puts us on fight, flight, or freeze.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's why we feel comfortable with people that look like us or speak like us. Even medically, they did a research where they did like MRI on the brain, on the areas of the brain that lighten up when we think about ourselves. They were the same areas of MRI that lighten up when we think about people that we call in groups that look like us. So there is no threat here. So the brain accepts them without even thinking. But when people are different, the areas of the brain that light up in the MRI were different. So the threat is ignited, and that's when they become us versus them.
Wow. So let's relate this psychological, sociological mixture to, without getting into politics.
No.
But the recent election that's hopefully over has produced this exact problem.
Yes.
I mean, just put a microscope on it and lit a match to it. And that really hasn't been seen in this country. We see it elsewhere, but it's actually quite frightening looking at it. And it caused a lot of people to do exactly what you just described, and from their own situations. So it's just not one versus the other. It's like many, all doing the same fight or flight thing.
Yes, in different areas. Actually, I wrote a long article on LinkedIn about that. And I'm not approaching this from a political point of view, because I don't approach anything from a political, your political belief or my political belief, because again, I have friends on both spectrums, because if I am a believer in inclusion, I should be able to include different opinions, even if they are contradictory to my own. That's the beauty of inclusion, right? And I'm not a hypocrite. So I try to understand people coming from different areas. So you're talking about what happened to people right now and why they are acting that way. And sometimes we look, and I'm talking here from this is my humble opinion, from a very scientific point of view. People are pushed to their survival mechanism. Their fear is accentuated. So they see each other as the enemy. Whoever is different is like, you're gonna kill me, you're gonna take away my home, you're gonna take away my job, you're not gonna include me, you're gonna kick me out of the country. So every single one of them is rooted in fear. Because the brain is, in a very simple way, is 3 layers. Is the bottom layer that we share with the reptiles, and this is our survival mode, right? The second part is the emotional, that has the empathy. And the third part that evolved itself into existence is right here, is our thinking part. So we have survival, emotion, and analytical thinking. The problem is that they work against each other. They don't work together. And that's why sometimes you say, my heart tells me to do this, but my brain is against it.
So isn't it so, though, people can, which we've just witnessed, can use the top to squelch the middle?
Yes, if we can, for a second, control, because survival, the base brain, where we call it amygdala, is the strongest part of the brain. It can actually hijack all the resources of the brain, and we can stay in that fear. So we can disconnect. Believe it or not, it takes 30 seconds to a minute to disconnect from that survival mode to the emotional, where we have empathy, where we can put, because I think one of the biggest remedies is to start having empathy, to put ourselves in other people's shoes without feeling sorry for them and without trying to fix them. When we get that empathy, we can, and we use that in what we call stereotype individuation and replacement, where we replace the stereotype that we have of other people, putting ourselves in their shoes, and then we can take it to an analytical level. And that's why it all starts with our self-awareness. and how we can disconnect that survival, fight, flight, or freeze by doing very easy or simple exercises, as easy as deep breathing, or thinking about the lyrics if you feel like totally pushed into a survival mode or into stress. Think about the lyrics of a song that you like. It will immediately disconnect your brain. Our brain is very easily disconnected. If you wear an elastic band on your wrist and you just snap it, it will reset your brain again. These are all, they sound stupid sometimes, but these are very simple ways to disconnect the brain from the survival mode, to give it space to go through empathy and to go through analytical thinking.
Okay, give us that elastic band thing again.
Sure.
Does that really works?
I did that for a couple of years, in my earlier years. Like I would get like angry really quick, and by doing it triggers my brain to stop and breathe, because the nurture of the brain is oxygen.
So it's like bringing cognizant, whatever it's called, to it.
It's actually cognitive behavioral therapy, part of that.
There we go.
Right? And it's easy, sometimes my wrist will turn really red from snapping it, but but it's again, it brought awareness to my brain. And remember, habits, we can induce automatic habits between 21 and 30 days because of the neuroplasticity of our brain.
So, doctor, it's time in the show, because I could do this all day, but
I can too.
It's time to say, how do we deal with this? What baby steps? 1, 2, 3.
The first thing that I would suggest is actually to go online. Harvard did something called the Implicit Bias test. It's free, it's online, and take that test. It will give you a start point, because some people tell me, I don't know if I'm biased. I'm not biased. So that will give you a beginning. It's not 100% accurate, but it's a beginning. Remember, the journey of 1,000 steps starts with one step. And then we need to start being aware. The minute we see that or feel that knee-jerk reaction that we get when we look at someone that is different, sit with it for a second and say why I'm feeling that way. Because our first impression are caused by priming, and when we react to someone that we deem different, we are reacting to a gut reaction to a memory. We are never reacting to that person in front of us, but that person reminds us of something that is deep in our brain. So we need to make that differentiation. It takes work, Ed. It doesn't happen overnight, but we need to be committed and have the will to start being aware. And once we start like having that awareness, what knee-jerk reaction, like I had someone that told me, for example, you know what, the millennials drives me nuts. And I feel like they are entitled, they are this. And I'm like, I told her, your daughter is a millennial, right? And she said, yes. I said, whenever you see a millennial, put your daughter in that place. She came back to me like a month later, and she said, you know what? I have a totally different reaction to people now. She's doing that replacement. Also, open your mind to get to know people from different cultures. Read, educate yourself. If you are at work and you're doing an interview, to avoid the affinity bias, to pick people that are like you or that are clone of the leaders that are already there, have a panel of 5 different people, and this way you avoid that. Train your people at work, have diversity, but also pick who you get as a trainer or as a workshop facilitator to do your DEI. This is important. Also, have inclusive leadership. Have DEI goals part of performance evaluation for managers. But again, it all starts with us.
Why don't you just tell us what your site is,
sure,
and let people out there know.
Sure. It's www.saharconsulting.com. It's SAHAR consulting.com. I'm on LinkedIn as Sahar Andradi speaker. I have a YouTube channel under Sahar Consulting, and there are at least 160 videos. Some of them are live. It touches anything from unconscious bias to DEI to equity to inclusive leadership to cultural competence. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm basically everywhere on social media.
So I really thank you. And this thing about the 3 steps and the bottom, the middle, and the top, and I look forward to finding a video from you on that particular topic. And I'd like you to please think about, in January or February, whenever it's convenient, come back on and
I would love to.
let's do a talk show and perhaps bring in a couple of others.
Sure.
Ali Shami, thanks very much for introducing us. I really appreciate you, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and thank you so much for having me, Ed. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.